What is going on, people? Joey Talks Boxing here. I want to talk about Tyson Fury and his career, which now will be completely, totally re-examined. Now, just for all disclaimer, I am or was a huge Tyson Fury fan. We're going to bring it back to the beginning. This is back in 2015. I didn't even know he was. I remember he was fighting Vladimir Klitschko. And I remember Dan Rafael at the time, he said, we're in round 10 and he seems to be up on my unofficial scorecard. Vladimir Klitschko might finally lose a fight for the first time in 11 years. And that was crazy because Klitschko had the title for so long and it became so monotonous, the heavyweight division, because Vladimir Klitschko had just kept winning every single fight. He wasn't a big personality. He wasn't big in America, so us American people, we weren't really so into him. And I was like, wow, we got a new guy. And I saw the last 2 rounds of the fight. Fury won it. The fight was a horrible fight to watch, but he won the fight, and he started singing in the ring. He apologized to Lennox Lewis because he had gotten upset about something Lennox had said earlier. I don't know what he said, but he apologized to Lennox. And I remember thinking, I kind of like this guy. I like this guy a lot. And then I started looking up more about him. I was like, I really think this is he's a cool dude. Like, he was hilarious. I saw his press conference versus Klitschko because I went back and watched it. Dude was dressed up as Batman. Like, he was just a funny dude. He was a cool dude. But I was always very interested in how the British public did not embrace him, even though he was the heavyweight champion of the world, even after that. I think it was a mix of things. I think, 1, his fighting style wasn't that exciting. I think, 2, he was very controversial with a lot of the things that he said. We don't have to say them here, but just you can't say certain things that he said in a country like England, and people aren't going to like that. And him being, I think, a gypsy also, a lot of them didn't love that. But also what someone had pointed out was that he had called out David Price and David Haye, and he pulled out of the fight with David Price. And with David Haye pulled out of the fight with him, but he was going out against one of the most popular people in England. So I said for years, when it was Wilder and Joshua, I said, if Fury gets off that coke, he can potentially become the heavyweight champion again. I did say that back then, even in 2016 and 17. He was out of the sport. Now, a lot of people don't talk about is that his fight before the Vladimir Klitschko fight was versus Christian Hammer. And it came out that he had failed the drug test versus Christian Hammer. He was, I believe, doing a 1-year suspension from 2016 on. So he likes to play this whole mental health thing is why he was out. No. You were really going to be out for a year anyways. He kept pushing off the Vladimir Klitschko rematch. I think the fight, I think the suspension was only in the United Kingdom. I think he could have fought out of that. He kept pushing it back. He said mental health. Some people will say he was ducking Klitschko. I do think the mental health thing is real. I do think Fury has his demons. I do think that Fury did have certain problems with depression, and that made him go up in weight and drugs and all these things. I know a lot of people say that was just completely fraudulent. Maybe some of it is, but I don't believe all of it was. I said when Fury came into the ring after Wilder knocked out Spilka in Brooklyn, a Fury-Wilder fight would be incredible. So now time goes on. At this point, Fury's beating Klitschko. And Klitschko, after that, almost knocked out Anthony Joshua. So you can't just make it like Klitschko was done. I know Klitschko was going through his own things during that time, and he'll never say this because he's such a prideful champion. He's such a warrior. But his wife, I don't know if he was married to her, but his girlfriend, she was had some, suicidal thoughts or whatever. But he'll never make excuses. But the point is that he beat him. He had some decent wins before that, like Christian Hammer, Chisora, twice. He had moved up the way. He was the heavyweight champion, Fury. Legitimately, he was the heavyweight champion. No one cared that Deontay Wilder had the WBC. That wasn't a big deal. He then comes back. But in the meantime, when he was out of the ring, Anthony Joshua became the champion. And this is the part that Fury people don't like to bring up. You can't take off that kind of time and then say, I'm still the champion. No, 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 no. Doesn't work that way. Joshua beat Dominic Brazil. Joshua beat Charles Martin. Joshua beat Molina. Joshua beat Klitschko, and he knocked him out when you didn't, even though it was a closer fight, but he knocked him out. Joseph Parker, Povetkin, he was the champion. He was considered the number one guy. Fury comes back and fights Wilder. Now, he wanted 50-50 versus Joshua, which was crazy at the time. Joshua offered him the fight, but he didn't want to do it with Joshua. He chose Wilder, in my opinion, because he thought Wilder was the easier path. I know he likes to turn it on how, oh, it was Joshua this, Joshua that, Joshua didn't want to do it. No, you didn't want to fight Joshua at that time because, let's be honest, at that point, Joshua would have probably knocked him out. Let's be honest about it. You fought Wilder, and I'm going to be fully honest with you. I thought Wilder was going to knock Fury out easily. I thought he did too much damage to his body. The Coke was too much. The ice cream sandwiches were too much. The Diet Cokes, all these things that he was doing. But he outboxed Wilder. He did get dropped in the 9th round. It was more of a balanced thing. He did get dropped in the 12th round. I thought it was over at that point. But he got up, showed great recovery abilities, similar to how Larry Holmes did that versus Ernie Shavers. And he should have won that fight in retrospect, in my opinion. They gave it a draw. I don't think that was crazy, but whatever. Then what happened was Fury finally got loved by the people because nobody liked him before that. But now people respect him. Like, man, he came back. He became relatable. He got off the canvas. This guy has a great story. And he got himself a big TV contract with ESPN. That was a cherry pick gone wrong by Wilder. That's what it was. Let's be honest. They thought that was easy pickings. They thought we're going to knock out Fury, then we're going to go get Joshua. That's what Al Heyman, Lou DiBella, and Shelley Finkel thought. That's what they thought. Didn't happen. Then he fights Tom Schwartz. Nobody ever heard of Tom Schwartz before that. Knocks him out 2 rounds, fine. Then he fights Ottawa Lynn. Nobody ever heard of Ottawa Lynn before that. And he struggled versus Ottawa Lynn. He got cut up terribly, and he was able to win the fight, but it was not an impressive showing. So he's always been inconsistent. Then he fights Wilder for the second time, and he knocks him out and dominates Wilder. Now, that's a great win, in my opinion. I do think some people overrate Wilder. I do think some people underrate Wilder. You know, depending on who you speak to, Wilder is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Other people say he's completely terrible. He sucks. So I think it's somewhere in between. He's a very vulnerable fighter, but he is definitely was a top 3 or 4 or 5 heavyweight of this time, you know, at the time. No doubt about it. During this period of time, Joshua has gotten knocked out by Ruiz, but then he regains his title. So some of the luster from AJ has kind of worn off. So people want that AJ Fury undisputed title, and it doesn't happen because Wilder and, you know, he takes Fury to court because of the whole thing with COVID, how it was delayed. So Fury wanted to get out of doing that and wanted to go straight to the Joshua fight. Then Joshua loses to Usyk, and everyone's like, oh, Joshua's a loser. You know, Fury and Wilder have one of the great fights of the ages. And, you know, then the last few years, he lost again to Usyk, and now Fury did all this. When you look at Tyson Fury's resume, it's not a top 10 heavyweight of all time resume. It's not. And I've said this for a while, and I was a fan of Fury and still am. I like him. I think he's a cool dude. But you beat an old Klitschko. He didn't dominate an old Klitschko, but you did beat him. But he was an old Klitschko. You beat Wilder twice by knockout. You had the draw. We'll even say that's a win if you want. What else? You beat Dillian Whyte. That was a good win. Chisora wasn't, I don't even think he was in the top 10 at the time. That's not enough. Like, you're not an all-time great heavyweight. Like, I'm sorry. He has not stepped up and faced top opposition. He has been very careful for who he selects. When it comes to Dillian Whyte, when he's the mandatory, he fights him right away. When it comes to Chisora, third fight, he does it right away. When it comes to Joshua and Usyk, it's like, I'm going to wait a little bit. But he has done some serious damage to his body, and I don't know if he could ever be the same fighter again. He's not as slick as he once was. He's lost his legs, and I said that starting with the third Wilder fight. He's much more stationary than he used to be, and he's not a big enough puncher where he could fall back on that. This isn't like a 45-year-old George Foreman where he could, you know, just one punch knock out people and win off that. So I could see his style not aging the greatest. I think at this point I would favor Usyk to beat him. But one thing I've learned is you can never count out Tyson Fury. But a lot of people are going to look back and say, was Tyson Fury on steroids for the Vladimir Klitschko fight also? It's a good chance he was, if we're being honest. Was Tyson Fury, you know, with the loaded gloves and all that stuff versus Wilder? I think most of that's nonsense, but people are going to question that. He's very shady. This, trying to get this quick money grab with Ngannou, you looked terrible in that fight. Whether you won or not, you looked horrible during that fight. And, it's just, this is what it is, man. He's 35 years old. And this era of heavyweight boxing has been unbelievable in terms of entertainment. But I think if we look back at it, we'll say Fury, Joshua, and Wilder were all a little bit overrated. And it's funny because when we look back at this era, I always thought we were going to say that Fury was the best of the era. But today, for the first time, I'm thinking we're going to say Usyk was the best of this era. And 5 years ago, I never would have thought that the cruiserweight champion of the world would be considered the best heavyweight of this era. Similar to Holyfield and Tyson back in the day when Holyfield moved up from cruiserweight to heavyweight and eventually knocked out Mike Tyson. But maybe he could come back and beat Usyk, and that would be phenomenal. If he beats Usyk and then he goes and destroys Ngannou in a potential rematch, beats Joshua, and then he is an all-time great heavyweight. But not that he has to beat Ngannou to be an all-time great heavyweight, but beating Usyk, being undisputed. But I can't put him in the top 10. And he hasn't had a long enough run, and he hasn't beaten the other top guys. He hasn't beaten Joshua or Usyk. Think about that. And there were so many top 10 heavyweights that he never fought that because of his retirement and just fighting not good opposition. He never fought against Joe Joyce. He never fought against Alexander Povetkin. He never fought against Luis Ortiz. He never fought against Joseph Parker. He never fought against, a lot of these guys that were rated, highly. Andy Ruiz. We could go on and on and on. But that's just how boxing is. There's a lot of promotional deals and there's a lot of politics in the sport. But Fury, you don't have this unbelievable resume. And also from a talent standpoint, he's big, elusive, feints well, great recovery. But the guy's not a huge puncher. He's not great at leading. And for someone who's so super slick, he sure does get knocked down a lot by Wilder, Ngannou, Cunningham, and what's the other dude's name? I'm finding out this guy's name. The guy who dropped Fury once and for all. Sorry, I'm typing this up. The other dude who dropped him years ago, he's not like this super slick guy and this amazing skillful boxer. I think that's the myth about him. Nevin Padzik. And he, by the way, arguably lost to McDermott in that fight back in the day in 2009. So he's had a lot of stuff in his career, which was not the most impressive. That's why I was so surprised when he beat Vladimir Klitschko. But Tyson Fury, I don't think is he going to end up being an all-time great? I don't know. I don't think he is because I don't think he's going to be Usyk now. And to me, he's never going to be undisputed. And his career, I think, we'll always look back at and say, it could have been better. But that is what that is. One thing I'll respect about Anthony Joshua is that you'll never look back at Joshua's career and say it could have been better because he didn't fight certain people or whatever. I know he never fought Wilder or Fury yet, but he's constantly stepped up to the plate and fought quality opposition. You can't really say that about Fury, and he doesn't have any PED scandal. Fury has a lot of question marks. The PEDs, the layoff, the break, the Wilder glove scandal, if you want to count that as a scandal too. And the fact that he hasn't fought Usyk yet or Joshua. So to me, I think that Tyson Fury was great for boxing, one of the greatest self-promoters in the history of boxing, one of the greatest entertainers in the history of boxing, but at this rate, he's not going to be on any top 10 heavyweight of all time list. I don't see it. But if he beats Usyk, we can potentially talk about something different, from that point on. Let me know what you guys think. Is Tyson Fury going to end up being an all-time great or not? Please like, share, comment, subscribe. Peace.